Good afternoon and welcome to ALCOSAN's Green Committee meeting. If we can begin with the roll call.
Corey, we're not live.
Sorry, I thought it said live on YouTube on my top right.
Mr. Chairman, the meeting is yours.
All right, thank you very much, Joey. Good afternoon and welcome to ALCOSAN's regular Green Committee meeting. If we could begin with the roll call, please.
Sure. Dr. Gilliam?
Present.
Mr. Weinstein? Mr. O'Connor?
Here. Okay, now that we have enough members here, we will, today there actually is no action items, but we do have a presentation by the department, and I believe I will pass the rest of the agenda off to Tim, and then if anybody has questions, please feel free to jump in. So Tim, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy New Year, everyone. This is January 21st Green Committee meeting. The agenda is as follows. As the chairman pointed out, we do not have any action items in this meeting, but we do have a bit of information. This is typical for a January meeting where we provide some a status on the existing GROW projects, give you an up-to-date information on where we are financially, and then a new item which we've been working on, project performance. And then every January we also give the committee a heads up as to changes that are being proposed for the program guidelines. Everything else is fairly straightforward. We'll start with GROW program implementation status. Right now, what you see on the screen are every project ID that we have offered an award to over the past 5 cycles. So in those 5 cycles, we've offered an award to 137 projects. Where we're at right now is we have closed out of 35 of those projects. That means that they've submitted everything, they've done the work, they've completed everything that was required of them as part of the GROW agreement. And that we've been satisfied, we've closed it out, everything's executed. They are now in the 20-year long-term O&M portion of the program. 23 projects are in performance evaluation, which means that they have finished construction and are currently in the process of doing the final monitoring or writing the final report, or we have the final report but is still under review. 24 projects are in construction, 41 projects are in design, and we had, of those 137 projects, 14 of them either declined or rescinded the project or the offer from ALCOSAN. Now, this graphic is kind of all over the place, but it would be helpful if we looked at it this way. So we could see that in cycle 1, as we would expect, more projects are now closing out. Cycle 2, cycle 3, cycle 4. As we get closer to the existing cycles, fewer projects are closing out, but that's to be expected. Cycle 1 projects have been around for a while. You'll also notice, how many projects are in performance evaluation and how many are in construction and design. Over on the far right, cycle 5, we already have several projects that are in performance evaluation. Those typically are the reimbursement projects that we offered an award to. Some projects are currently under construction, In cycle 5, the 2 that you see right there, that's actually one project. That's Whiteman Park, and the PWSA is still doing work there. And the rest are in design. Are there any questions in regards to the program status?
I have one question.
Yes.
Can you help me understand the projects from the first cycle, the 2016 projects that are in the design stage? Help me understand kind of where they are and how close to construction they might be, if you have that information.
That's a really good question. The 2016-01005, that is a project called Ravine Street in Sharpsburg. And coincidentally, that is a project that is a collaboration between PennDOT, ALCOSAN, the municipalities. And that project is being run by PennDOT because there was some federal funding involved. They're running it. That project has been bid out. The bids have been opened, and we are satisfied with those bids. And so that project is going to begin construction soon. Now, the construction period is fairly long. It's going to be, I think, close to 2 years of construction. So that project's going to be on the books for a while. 056, that's McKees Rocks. And the McKees Rocks project, it's a tough one, because that was a project that the Community Development Corporation for McKees Rocks put forward in partnership with the borough. But the project it really hasn't gone very far quickly. We try to keep in touch with them, but they're all dependent upon more funding from grants and everything. So that project is still in design. And because that was a cycle 1 project, it didn't have the big design requirements that we eventually evolved to now. So that project was actually a conceptual design that we had awarded in cycle 1. So it's still there, and we're still waiting on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tim, I just had a question, and maybe you're going to get into it when you talk about changing the performa and that portion of the conversation. But I guess, do we have time frames on all these? Are there time frame requirements on the agreements? That would be my only question. I mean, obviously, some's based on state funding and getting matching funds, so I could see if it's 5 years to wait through that process. But is there a cap when we write these agreements on time or no?
We have an end date. And
there are end dates. Okay, that's fine.
We have an end, but usually what happens is when the municipality gets close to the end date, they will ask for an extension.
Right, which is fine. That's good. Okay.
I do think you raise a valid point, Corey. And of course, we're still, I mean, honestly, 4 years is not that long when you think about some of the size of some of these projects. And so that'll just be something that we'll just keep an eye on. So thank you for your question, Corey.
Someone wanted to know.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think that's important because, I mean, even if we put them on the back burner, there's a way that other projects could get done maybe quicker as we wait. But yeah, I think that's a good conversation to have at some point. So, all right, Tim, sorry.
No problem. Okay, we're moving on to the financial update, and fair warning, you're going to see a lot of pie charts. In cycle 1, we had awarded over $9 million. Some of those projects rescinded or declined. We were roughly about between $8 and $9 million eventual accepted awards. Where we're at now is we have about just shy of 3.2 million left to be dispersed. So you can see the breakout of all the projects. The stream project, small amount, 25,000. Green, about 300,000. Now, one thing that I would want to point out here, for several years, we've had the discussion about the PWSA's property interest issues. And I'm happy to report that they're systematically getting them addressed. So a lot of those green infrastructure projects that were awarded in cycle one, they're complete. They should be submitting for reimbursement as soon as they get everything in place. So the cycle one, the disbursement's going to increase, I think, fairly dramatically over the next several months.
Something that would be helpful, because the left awarded funds and the dispersed funds, they, you know, visually look the same size. I'm trying to see if I'm seeing an optical illusion or not, but like go back to cycle one, because I already did the math on those. Thanks.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just trying to kind of know the total of awarded versus dispersed, particularly in light of the statement that you just said that we would be dispersing more funds for cycle one in the future, just to kind of get an idea of when we, you know, how close we are to those numbers. So did you understand my question? I know I
apologize. I don't think I fully understood that.
Yeah, so okay, so if you add up the numbers on the left, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So $8.6 million. And then you look at the right, and it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's at like what, 6 point something? So, but the pies look the same size.
Ah, I understand.
Yeah, budget to actual, basically.
Right.
So it's just hard for me to, you know, I'm doing math. I'm trying to listen to you. I just want to make sure I'm, you know, following everything that you're saying. So
It's
just a thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will be sure to make sure I've got the, you know, the reasoning behind the discrepancy for that cycle one, because there
Yeah,
were,
or even just the total, just so that when we look at it, I don't have to quickly do math. You know, math makes my head hurt. But
yeah, I was toying with how to present this.
no, the visuals are beautiful. That's the only one thing that's missing, is just like the total at the bottom, so we can kind of quickly do the budget to actual as we're processing.
I gotcha.
Yep.
That was on my mind too.
Yeah, no shade. Thank you. This is good work. Carry on.
Okay, so for cycle two, the majority of the funding went to green infrastructure and sewer separation, very small portion for stream inflows, and then a little bit for I&I. In cycle two, there's still just shy of $7 million left to be dispersed out of that pocket. In cycle three, we didn't have a lot of projects, and most of those projects ended up being I&I projects. We did have one green project that was the 579 cap. That's the 408,000. And they have not yet gotten to the point in construction where they can seek reimbursement for that just yet. So that's why you see green infrastructure is at 0. And it was not a very large cycle. So we still have a little shy of half of the funds remaining to be dispersed there. In cycle 4, we jumped back up. I&I starting to really take hold. In cycle 4, we also had our first $2 million project, and that was for sewer separation. But those projects take time to start construction. So we have not dispersed a lot of the funding for cycle 4 projects. Basically what you see there in the dispersed funding is generally all the projects that were reimbursement projects, and everything was done, and all they had to do is just document the payments and get that to us for reimbursement. And then in cycle 5, the big type of project ended up being sewer separation and green infrastructure in that cycle. And it was also by far the largest cycle awards that we gave, and the amount remaining to be dispersed is just shy of $15 million. So where are we at right now? all said and done, we had offered $45 million, a little bit more than $45 million. And you can see the amount of each little pie segment, how much has actually been dispersed back to the municipalities. So sewer separation 2.5, I&I 3.9, green infrastructure 1.4, stream inflows 34,000. We had, of all those projects that rescinded their offer, they that totaled $4.2 million. Now, the other thing to take note of is that sometimes when these projects get rescinded is simply because they reapplied later on with better information or a new design. So several of those rescinded projects just ended up being an awarded project in a later cycle. But you know, those funds that were offered and accepted but subsequently rescinded goes back into the pot. And then there was nearly $1 million of funding that was deobligated, meaning that the projects didn't utilize the full amount of the grant. They either came in under budget. We have a 1% origination fee that comes back to us. So those funds, and that's a little over $5 million, that all gets put back into the overall GROW fund. But the big thing to note, of everything that's been awarded so far, we still have $32.5 million to disperse. So we're 5 cycles in. There's a lot of work to go forward with, but we're up to it. And overall, what has been dispersed, almost $8 million, 32.5 million is remaining to be reimbursed. And then of the 100 million that was in the pool of money for GROW, we have just shy of $60 million remaining. So, you know, we have several good cycles moving forward. Are there any questions in regards to the financial update?
None for me, thanks.
No, thank you.
Okay. Project performance is something that has been requested by this committee, and we've been trying, you know, to get our heads around, okay, what's the best way to go about this? Because it is a major goal of the GROW program to be able to justify the investment we're making into the municipalities through data analysis. So the mechanism that we use for this final analysis is the final reports. Now we have received 43 final reports. We have there have been several final reports that have been finished up. We've approved them. We've closed that project down. There's a handful of projects that were still under review with those final reports. Right now we have 35 fully reviewed and 8 that are under review. This is the information that we have. The data comes to us in these final reports. The assessment that the engineers that work for the municipalities, that all comes in this final report. So to do a performance evaluation, it's not easy because there is a lot of data variability. In projects such as these, because we are utilizing like climate, like precipitation data, we're utilizing flow monitoring data, we're utilizing trying to understand groundwater, we're trying to understand the hydraulics of the system. There's so many variables to work around, and very rarely we're finding do they all seem to work seamlessly together. Every year you have a different spring. This spring is not going to be the same as last spring. More likely than not, it's not going to be like any other spring that we have. But this is the best way that we know to try to understand how these projects are performing, because we need to get to a common metric, and that common metric is the volume removed in the system. How much water are we taking out? And based on how much water we're taking out, how much overflow reduction are we enjoying through these projects? It's definitely not easy. Our consultant Jacobs has been sifting through all these final reports, pulling out information, trying to get a better understanding as to how it all works together. I don't know how well this slide worked out, but there were, I believe, 40 different columns of information that they were looking at. And every column kind of feeds into something else. But in the end, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to this common metric. The modeled volume removed, model overflow reduction. This is the best estimate that we believe that we have. The engineers are using best engineering judgment as to how to analyze everything, but the data doesn't, especially right now, we're using a lot of the cycle 1 projects and cycle 2 projects. So the modeled volume removed, 317 million gallons. We feel fairly confident of that number. And we feel confident of $48 million or 48 million gallons of overflow reduction based on the information that we have received. As we keep moving forward, we have to understand that these projects that are being completed are typically cycle 1 and cycle 2 projects. In cycle 1, we didn't require pre-construction flow monitoring. We did require post-construction. So if there was not pre-construction monitoring, it's kind of difficult for us to fully gauge the efficacy of that project. We can use the models, but to have that comparison, it's fairly difficult to ascertain. Cycle 2, we introduced that pre-construction requirement for flow monitoring, which was good, and things got better. Then in cycle 4, we made a requirement that the municipality, if they want to pursue a grow project, that they should give ALCOSAN the chance to do the monitoring for them. And so what we're going to see is that as the cycles keep moving forward, the data, we believe that the data is going to start to be more consistent, more reliable, and we are hoping that those variables in the data start to narrow and that we can start to get more reliable results based on everything that we have put into place over the past 2 cycles.
This is good. I do understand, having worked on, multiple longitudinal research projects that, you learn. There are some things you don't know when you're designing the project that you pick up over time, and, thankfully you're able to make adjustments. So I appreciate that slide. And I'm glad that you are being transparent with the fact that, hey, we didn't have some of these measurements early on, and now we do. So that, that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. The team is working very hard to get something pulled together that we are all behind, and we have a lot of confidence. The numbers that we have, even though the data is not where it would be like right now, we're still fairly confident that this is good information and that these results should, pass any kind of scrutiny. And as the cycles go on, it'll get even stronger. I have no doubt about that. So the program guidelines, every January we share with the Green Committee the program guidelines from last year and changes to this year. We are now 5 cycles in, and we were asked to share with you, well, what was the evolution of the program guidelines? In our first cycle, our program guidelines, we researched other grant programs. We did our best to put a program guideline together that we felt met the needs of the GROW program. Understanding that at the time, the Green Committee really wanted us to just get a program going. So we knew that we would have to learn from cycle 1. So as we moved from cycle 1 to cycle 2, the major change that we made was we realized the maximum award needed to go up to $2 million. We had a project immediately that hit the cap. And so we made the argument, yes, this could go up to $2 million. The board, the committee was very supportive of that because they wanted bigger, more impactful projects. Other things, monitoring data submission in a uniform format, eligible cost clarification, minor tweaks to the program guidelines. And we see that every cycle. We learn something and we recommend this particular change. In cycle 2 to cycle 3, requiring pre-construction data as well as the post-construction data. And then clarifying, what the goal of the program is. There was a little misunderstanding. We want to get rid of stormwater and we also want to remove groundwater. What projects required property interest clarification, like needing an IDRC, insurance, the final report. Again, every year we learn something new to add to the program guidelines. From cycle 3 to cycle 4, we started to see what was going on as a result of cycle 1 and realizing that some of those projects that needed to be rescinded were because they were completely changing the design of those conceptual projects that we had awarded. So we made the recommendation to have a minimum design requirement so that the applicant is so far into the program or so far into the design that it's no longer a viable option for them to redesign everything. Again, minor issues regarding ineligible costs, property interests, and final report criteria. Then the big one, going maximum award from $2 million to $10 million. That was a huge game changer. And, we also made a requirement for the IDRCs to show us that the property interests are being met, that the IDRCs needed to be submitted prior to ALCOSAN executing the GROW agreement in the first place. Those are two major changes that were made last year. We also made a requirement for flow monitoring to be performed by ALCOSAN, and if we couldn't do it, then we would reimburse the municipality for their costs. And then minimum design criteria, because we raised everything from $2 to $10 million, we had a tiered system for minimum design requirements. And then also a minimum project value, because we were seeing that there were a lot of municipalities submitting very small projects, and we made the case that they're potentially not making any money by being a GROW project if they are below a certain amount. And so after those cycles, we're now here at cycle 5, going into cycle 6. And I'm very happy to report that we have no substantive changes. For the first time, we're at a place where we believe we are firing on all cylinders. We're moving forward with a very clearly defined program. No changes that of a major issue or anything. In March, we will still be putting forward to the committee an action item to approve the program guidelines, but those changes end up just being this date changed, And we always do our due diligence to be sure that the board knows what changes have been made, and then the board approves it, the committee approves it, and then the board approves it. But right now, there's nothing going on. And this is because, we have had a very good relationship with our municipalities, the collaboration that we've had with them, the feedback that they've provided to us went into developing, this evolution of the program guidelines. The support of the board, senior management here at ALCOSAN, that feedback has definitely been, great. This committee always, making sure we're on our A game and, making suggestions, telling us your thoughts and your suggestions definitely also had a major impact on how these program guidelines get evolved. And even though she's no longer on the board, from the very beginning, Brenda Smith always put the GROW team to task to take this program just a little bit further every cycle. And so we're now at a point where we have a very strong grant program, and I can't say how happy I am to the point that we're here. I wanted to be here a few years ago, but I'm just very glad that we are now here, where we don't have any substantial changes, and we can move forward with many cycles with this program.
So Tim, I would just like to say, thank you for all your work, the whole board at ALCOSAN, everybody that volunteered and put a great effort together just to make it so much easier now. I think it's funny when you start a grant program, you're not sure how it turns out, but to make no changes means that we're on the right path, especially, the communities and our community representatives that go out there to all the municipalities for us makes a difference, because now I think they're more comfortable coming through this process. And I think that's a credit to everybody at ALCOSAN, directors all the way down. I think that's really good that, we're seeing that we don't have to make any changes. There's more money going out than ever before. So, we did really, and I think, Arletta obviously deserves credit to make a move to a green first approach, which I think we have done on a number of different instances. So Tim, to your team and everybody, I would just give a thank you from the board. And I think that's just a job well done. I know it's 5 years in the making, but it's great that you have no changes coming up this year. So that's really good to everybody.
Yeah.
And also I got to thank the lawyers who handle all these agreements as well, which make it a little difficult sometimes. But I think that's really good that all the municipalities are sort of falling in line and now asking for this, like outwardly asking for grow grants, which I think is a real credit to ALCOSAN. So just wanted to add that. I don't know if Doctor, you wanted to add anything, or
Yeah,
Tim,
no,
you
I
had
mean,
anything else?
you took the words out of my mouth as far as the accolades and just just the appreciation for the work. I mean, it's obvious how much work has gone into this, and even the that spreadsheet. I love spreadsheets. That spreadsheet that had all those cells on it that I was taking screenshots of so that I could look at it later. I really appreciate the effort that it goes in, because this stuff is complicated. Because of the geological, there are just so many reasons. There are myriad reasons why it's complicated. Not to mention the people reasons. When you talk about the municipalities, and then you have community input, and all the things that go on behind the scenes. So just want to thank the team for all of your hard work on that. So thank you. I did have a couple questions. So when I looked, I love the slide that you made by cycle, by color, by phase. And so when I looked at the slide, you also presented a slide talking about the addition of the requirement for pre-construction data.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wonder, what are you all's thoughts on the introduction of the pre-construction data for the projects from earlier cycles that are currently in construction and design. According to my quick count, there are 52% of the projects across all cycles are in construction and design. Are we asking them for pre-construction data as well, so we can really make your spreadsheet sheet sing?
You know, we haven't reached out for the ones that are still in design from cycles 1 and cycle 2. In cycle 2, I believe we made the point, it wasn't a requirement, it was a suggestion in cycle 2 to have pre-construction data. And the suggestion kind of was the carrot. You know, you have a better chance at getting an award if you provide us with this pre-construction data. For cycle 1, for some of those projects, I mean, we can go back and take a look at it. Right now, the monitoring team, we're pretty much maxed out with the projects that are being proposed for cycle 6. But we can definitely take a look at it. And we know that some of those projects, like the Ravine Street project, we do have a lot of information that already went into the design of that project. So, but we can absolutely go back, take a look to see, well, if they haven't gone into construction yet, do we have that pre-construction data? It won't change the award or anything, but
Yeah,
it
it
will
won't
help
change the
us with that performance.
Exactly. It'll really, it's just a win-win for us, really. I know I said 52%, but when we think about the projects, and I'm trying to blow this up a little bit for myself. Wow, it's small. When we look at the projects from cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3 that are in design, it's what, 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12. And I hear what you're saying about the team being kind of at capacity when it comes to, especially since ALCOSAN is now doing those pre-construction analysis, those data collection, so that we can have consistency. So I definitely recognize and appreciate capacity issue. So I guess I wonder, if there is not the capacity for ALCOSAN to conduct those pre-construction data collections ourselves, is there a place for us to reach out to, I don't even know who else does this, like are there universities who do this, who may have departments that would love an opportunity to contribute? I don't know, I'm spitballing here, but just trying to think of how can we, because really ultimately to your point, Tim, having those data for the earlier cycles really benefits ALCOSAN's Green Grow Green project.
That's an excellent suggestion. I will bring this up to the team when we get back together and discuss, our current status, and we'll get back to you when with the results, which projects fall into this scenario, and what we can do, and if we are unable to do it, what plan A and B would be to maybe get this moving, because it's a very good suggestion. If they're still in design,
Right.
why can't we just get the monitoring data going? And
Right.
that way we'll have the pre-construction monitoring data to go along with the eventual post-construction. It's an excellent suggestion.
Thank you. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate your, at least considering it, reviewing it, and getting back to us on that. One other question. I appreciate the slide that's up right now that says no substantive changes proposed. That's a real place to be. So I wonder if we have thought some about, okay, so we've got this part of the grant making process kind of under control, in hand, with all of the changes that we think need to be made. I wonder, are there places to think about dissemination of the good work that you've been doing, communication about the projects, that are underway, even as these, 35 reports have come in, just kind of getting more information out into the public about the good work that's going on?
Well, we do. We have a consent decree requirement that mandates that we share this information with our customer municipalities, but we're also trying to get this out into the public. So the way that we're trying to disseminate all the information that we're learning would be through the ALCOSAN website. You know, public meetings or anything probably wouldn't. It could work, but I think the best way for us to do it is the way that we are planning to do it per the consent decree, and that would be through the website. And so, and the regulatory agency is listed off, I believe, 8 key items that they want us to constantly update on the ALCOSAN website. And that's going to be the way that we share this information with everyone. And whenever we have an opportunity, we would refer somebody to look at the website if they wanted more information. Right now, we've got a lot of information on the website, and a lot of it is graphically based, so that all they need to do if they want to look at a specific project is to zoom into a map, click on it, and there's a summary sheet that talks about the project, that talks about, you know, what award they got, you know, how much overflow reduction or volume reduction that we anticipated and eventually see in the project. And as time goes on, you know, we have to provide summaries of the project type. So how effective has green infrastructure been? How effective has I&I been? These are all items that have to be put up onto the website for people to see, and so that we are transparent. We don't want to appear ever that we're not being transparent on this program.
Dr. G, in addition to purely the requirements and dictates of the consent decree, Joey and his group are looking at ways to package these stories that are in more of a promotional manner, just to get to what I think you're asking for, and that is selling good news.
Yeah, Joey's team did some great work with that talking fish, and I was sitting in the theater, saw the fish talking, you know, back before COVID, and I was like, yeah, I know them. So well, that's what I'm talking about. You know, some things that you know, are kind of cute, kind of interesting, you know, because you all are doing such great work and there's so much money that's been invested in this. I just want to make sure that as many people as possible know about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at me. I am completely like not understanding. I understand now what
Teamwork. We've got this.
I should have said, can you make a fish commercial about the Grow Green? That's what I should have said. That probably would have cut through all of it.
Joey. Okay, I think we're done with program guideline evolution. This is pretty much getting to the end of the Green Committee meeting. Future meeting date, we are scheduled to meet again Thursday, March 18th at 2 p.m. As I mentioned before, we'll have a handful of action items on the agenda. But for the most part, I can't adjourn.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, are we good? I thought Tim was going with something else there. Okay.
No, Tim is about to stop sharing his screen.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, thank everybody for being here. We will see the Green Committee in March, but we'll see everybody next Thursday at our regular meeting. So meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
Thank you, everyone.
Tim, as always.